Hey everybody, welcome to BrickVault. My name's Jack, and today we are building a very special kind of Lego set for you to review. This is the Boost Creative Toolbox. Oh yeah, and thanks a lot, Lego, for sending the set over to us for doing this review. This is the latest in programmable sets coming from Lego, building off the shoulders of Mindstorm, and I believe its biggest feature difference is its ability to be controlled from a tablet, with the user interface being made a lot simpler and easier to access. The set is recommended for ages 7 to 12. It is set number 17101 and includes over 840 pieces. Now, creator sets often are a 3-in-1 kind of build or somewhat modular, but the Boost Creative Toolbox is actually a 5-in-1 mode. Today we're going to be building all 5 different models and testing out all of its fun features. We've been looking forward to this for quite a long time, but first let's get this box open and see what's inside. Now, the first thing to notice is that Boost comes with this giant playmat. One side has a lot of different symbols, X's, targets, and I believe this is supposed to be compatible with a lot of the programming tabs that you have in the app. On the other side, it shows a list of parts, a larger build of a somewhat disassembled robot, and pictures of the other 5 builds. And there's also this great looking poster on the inside with some information on the back about the batteries. Now, the rest of the box includes 11 different numbered bags, and none of the bags have too many pieces, which makes me think that the builds, the 5 different builds, will probably go relatively quickly. This is an unlabeled bag that's got some Technic pieces as well as some tires and I think some of the sensors and motors. And this is probably going to be what houses one of the main motors and the batteries, I have a feeling. So that is a lot of stuff. I'm going to try to get through all 5 different creative builds that we have here and do a full comprehensive review. It's probably going to take me a while to do all 5, so I'm going to get started right now, and I'll see you on the other side. First build up is a robot called Vernie. That is the name that the creators gave him. And personally, I think Vernie looks a little bit closer to Johnny, as in Johnny 5. But that is relatively just a very classic look that you get for a lot of different types of robots. He has a ton of different accessories and a lot of fun functions. Now, this is one of the builds that works very well with the mat that I showed you before with all of the different little symbols on it. And I'm most impressed with the accuracy in which the 90-degree turns are used on the robot. It's not quite on point by the time it gets to the blue square destination at the end, but it's pretty good considering that was entirely on automatic functions. Now, the robot has a lot of expressions, mostly guided by turning of the head. Now, I think a lot of the fun part is that these actions can be prompted by different things. Here is touch, and then now this is sound, but you do have to kind of make a bit of a louder sound in order for your robot to respond. Now, that along with color sensing makes up the basic prompts for the different actions that your robot has, and the rest of it is really just marrying some fun actions along with some accessories. Here he now has a shoulder cannon, and a head turn prompts the trigger. And also here is the same function with our cool guy mustache cop robot. He's got a few extra accessories on his head, and he is now a motion sensing shooter. That time he got me. He doesn't have to be on guard mode for the motion sensing to work. You can just have a simple prompt like your hand set him off. And he also has other tools. Here he is with a hockey stick. And I'm sure with a little bit of finagling around, you can probably get a pretty accurate shot out of the guy if you practice. Now, I can see why this is the featured build for the Creative Toolbox. This robot is a lot of fun, but I think it's time to work on another build. This next build here is called the MTR4, which is an acronym for Multi-Tooled Rover 4. It looks somewhat like a treaded dump truck or a treaded garbage truck with the sporks in the front, but this rover, just like the name implies, has a lot of fun tools to play around with. Like Vernie, this is a machine that works very well with the provided mat, and showing off the first function, we have this little robot volunteer here. The rover is moving by my own manual controls, which are provided via the app, and then I have an automated dump function at the end. Sometimes it sticks around a little bit and you have to do it a few times before he tosses the robot into the pickup, but this action is decently consistent and a lot of fun to try out. Now this arm moving up and down action has plenty of other utilities, you just have to have different attachments. Now here's a motion sensor, and guess what happens with the trophy? That's right, this thing smashes around. And here is the rover executing an obstacle course that I set up with some cones, and here it's been programmed to do a little victory spin once he smashes the trophy. Now here's the same function with yet another robot volunteer. You can probably guess what this catapult is gonna do. Also, I'm gonna guess that this accessory is pretty self-explanatory as well. Now, Vernie's cannon orientation I think was a little bit better in terms of height. The rover tends to overshoot the target, and you really do have to get quite a bit of distance, more than what was in the Lightroom. And then of course you can keep playing around with more accessories built for the rover. There's a couple of strange heads you can attach to the back, but I think one of these later functions is a little bit more important and a lot more fun to mess around with. Now I mentioned there is a color sensor that's the same sensor that also detects motion. After you attach this different front piece here that can do some pushing, you can also reorient the direction of the sensor in the front, and now I've got the rover on an automatic go function, and it has to stop once it sees the color red. Technically, I can assign any function once it sees any type of color. Remember, the creativity and possibilities of a lot of these functions really goes quite far, but remember, I'm going to be going through all 5 of these builds, and I want to just show you what they come with just right off the start. Now here is the third build in line. This friendly looking cat is called Frankie. Personally, he kind of reminds me of a Squanch, but that is neither here nor there. This cat actually has a lot of fun features, and I was pleasantly surprised by the great expressions that come along with the cat, and the really fun musical function, which was totally unexpected for me. The first thing you do with Frankie is you can assign notes to colors, and then the colors that run along the inside of the harmonica actually activate the notes on the tablet. So by running the harmonica along the cat's mouth, which is where the sensor is, you can actually create the chords that correspond to the color that I'm showing. That was really impressive and a lot of fun, and Frankie can do a ton of different expressions with the eyebrows, some of which maybe correspond with certain sound effects that come from the tablet. But this cat, I think, has the best demonstration of just how sensitive the touch sensor is for this entire machine. Depending on the angle in which you hold the cat, you can evoke different types of emotions. The cat maybe doesn't like to be held forward or backwards, but enjoys being put upside down, and only responds once you actually place the cat on the back. The sensors are very sensitive, and the cat really does know just where it is standing in space. Of course, the cat wouldn't be complete without cat toys, and when you wiggle around the toy, the cat gets very excited. And of course, you can assign several different sort of emotions. You can trigger them just on your own, or they can be triggered based on a certain item. It really is up to you. The cat sometimes can get hungry, and you can actually set timetables for when the cat feels hungry. It can be resting and then all of a sudden gets hungry, and you give the cat the fishbone, and then Frankie or Squanchy will do some sort of animation and look like he's eating and go back to being happy. Also, some other accessories include Pirate Cat, which is okay, but this is definitely where it's at. We've got the big sort of cutesy eyes that any cat can sort of make. Brings me back to that one scene in Shrek, I think. Now we've got something called the Samurai Cat, or I'm calling him Samurai Cat. He comes with a little beard, very long eyebrows, and a interesting sort of samurai helmet on the top. A few other extra emotions come along with this particular set of accessories, and well, things are just kind of silly after this. Frankie actually was probably the most fun to play with, and it's probably one of the better demonstrations of just what cool things you can do with the color sensor. This next build here is the Guitar 4000, and there are some fun functions you can do with this, but a lot of the functions that come with this build really exist on the app, and it's all about composing music. The main function, though, of this guitar that is actually kind of fun is the ability to assign notes, of course, to the colors, and the motion sensor, I think, can also sense distance going up and down the neck. The build moving up and down the neck of the guitar will, of course, trigger different notes, and then the basic functions after that really exist within the app, assigning different sounds to those notes. For instance, you can make this little bow and all of a sudden your guitar riffs sound like violin notes. And you can also use the whammy bar to start distorting certain sounds that are coming out. Things do get a little bit more complex in terms of time scales and how fast or slow you want certain instruments to sound, because they start giving you drum beats and you can sort of just start creating a beat within the actual app. But the main functions of just assigning different guitar notes and to different colors, that pretty much stays the same throughout the beginning of when you first learn how to build until the very end. Now here is the final build out of the 1 in 5. This is called the Auto Builder, and the idea behind this is pretty cool, though I couldn't get some of the basic functions to work very consistently, and that was a little bit of a bummer. But the basic idea behind the Auto Builder is you can actually create some of those little robot buddies that you saw earlier. You can actually build them on an assembly track. You can assign which spaces will get used first, and of course attempt to build the original version of one of your robot buddies, or of course you can stack his parts in any order that you like, or even hit a button that just randomizes whatever the machine wants to do. There's a few little extra functions like launching the robot off the assembly line once it's complete, and also you can spin around this little sort of celebratory wind catcher, not entirely sure. But outside of using the assembly line function, that is pretty much it. I'm sure you could have some fun kind of messing around with the actual build of the assembly line track piece, maybe putting different types of parts on the inside and building something maybe entirely different. Now, there's the basic overview of all 5 different builds that come with the Creative Toolbox, but I think it is worth taking some time at the end here to talk about the app, the actual programming layout for working with all these different builds. There's no words to explain. There's basically just a few short automated tutorial pieces where they have you drag and drop certain functions, and you can tell based on the pictures and the way the apps are organized how the functions will work and how they'll respond if you start switching out different actions with different prompts. It is easy to learn, and there's a few extra little tidbits that will help you sort of condense a series of actions into one small node so you can move it around easier on the board, or loop actions, or have several prompts all start at the same time. All I did was go through a few of those initial tutorials with the beginnings of those builds, and I felt like, or I still feel like, I can operate any of these things just fine. And I believe the designers really did spend a lot of time making it accessible in the beginning, but also leaving room for allowing a bit more advanced functions in the future. There are a lot of things that you can do with the Creative Toolbox that I did not demonstrate, partially because I think this review video would be like an hour long if you really wanted to go through all the different possible functions, but also I think it is kind of worth discovering a lot of these things on your own. Now, getting into the actual build style that creates the 5 different things you're using within the Creative Toolbox. There is a sort of artsy consistency, I think. Everything is very colorful, and as much personality is sort of added to these builds, which I think is also a factor that makes this a lot more kid-friendly. These are all designed to be played around with. Things aren't really falling off when you're messing about, and each one of the builds actually felt quite easy to put together. I have messed around with plenty of other Technic sets that gave me larger headaches than what A ended up putting together here for the Creative Toolbox. This is first and foremost a very kid-friendly set, both with its ability to be constructed quite easily, the very easy user interface, and of course the fun and silly themes that you can build. Now this is probably one of the better sets that encourages robotic building and sort of a higher level of engineering, but that is accessible at a much younger age, and that's actually a very cool thing. All right, that's it for this episode, everybody. Thanks a lot for watching. Remember, if you enjoy our content, you can always like or subscribe, and we'll see you next time at BrickVault.